Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. And today we're going to be talking all about BigBearAI. And Big Bear has seen quite the retraction from the high that we were seeing. So recently we saw a lot of hype and momentum in Big Bear. We skyrocketed all the way up to $10 plus, but since that spot, we have only seen retraction since. So we are down 70% from the highs that we were seeing in BigBearAI. And so now many investors are feeling a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And there's also a big concern about dilution surrounding Big Bear. So we're going to talk all about that today, as well as do our technical analysis on the Big Bear. But before I get into that, I want to say, as always, that this is not financial advice. And I always recommend that you do your own due diligence before making any financial decisions. So let's start here by looking at the technical analysis in BigBearAI. And so when we just look at the chart in Big Bear, you could see that I have this trend line built out here. And this is just to show the bullish pattern that was building in Big Bear. So at the end of 2024, we started to follow this trend line here. It was a very bullish pattern. And then all of a sudden, Big Bear had some big announcements. And so we had a big announcement of a new CEO and then also a big government contract that they got. Because of this, Big Bear skyrocketed all the way up to $10 plus. But since this level, we have only seen a retraction in Big Bear since, and we are down 70% from those highs. And so currently, as I record this video, Big Bear is sitting at $2.97. And so if we just do a chart analysis and we just look at the technical side of Big Bear, things are looking positive at this moment. As when we did skyrocket all the way up to $10, we were looking pretty overvalued on the MACD and then also on the RSI. But since that retraction, we are now sitting at some more realistic levels on these indicators. So now we are looking a bit more oversold on the MACD and then also on the RSI as well. And so if we're just going based off of the chart with Big Bear, this may look like a great time to invest into Big Bear. And I want to also tell all my viewers that myself, I am very bullish on the Big Bear. So I am bullish on Big Bear for the long term, but with a lot of the recent announcements that we have got with Big Bear, this is what is having some investors now stray away from Big Bear. And so those announcements are that Big Bear recently did have to delay one of their filings. So at the quarter 4 earnings that we had for Big Bear, things did seem to be pretty positive, as it did look like Big Bear was starting to pay down a lot of their debt. But with this accounting error, what this says here is that the delay is going to need to reevaluate the accounting treatment of its convertible notes, specifically the embedded conversion options in the 2026 notes. And so initially with these convertible notes, there was a change where the company said that they were going to swap approximately $182 million of its existing 6% convertible senior notes due for 2026 now to 6% convertible senior notes due for 2029. And so what this essentially did for Big Bear was this extended their debt maturity from 2026 to 2029, improving the financial flexibility. But what is negative, especially negative now, is that since we just had all those accounting errors, not only do they have to look at these convertible notes, but they're looking at the whole debt restructuring of Big Bear for the last couple years. And so it looks like with these accounting errors, there may have been some sloppiness. And so now many investors are starting to worry about the possible dilution if these notes are converted to shares. If there's one thing the markets don't like, that is uncertainty. And now that Big Bear has a lot of uncertainty around the balance sheet, a lot of these investors holding these convertible notes may be looking to sell out early. So if you don't know what a convertible note is, basically a convertible note is just a loan from an investor that the debt could be paid back, not necessarily with cash, but instead shares. And so if these investors decide to convert their debt to these shares, this is where the possible dilution could happen from, as this debt will convert to shares, bringing more shares into the market. And so a lot of investors are feeling a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt from that possibility for dilution. And then the other thing that are making a lot of investors feel a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt is the possibility of that dilution happening. The balance sheet already didn't look the most strong for Big Bear. Now they have that big accounting error, which again puts a lot of investors into a spot of uncertainty. If there's anything the markets don't like, that is uncertainty. And then also their guidance for the future is pretty weak. And so Big Bear doesn't look like they're going to have much of a different year from previous years. And we know with Big Bear overall, when we look at their earnings expectations, they have had a lot of revenue misses. And so Big Bear hasn't been the most strong on their balance sheet. But what really concerns me more than anything with BigBearAI is that recently with the big volatility uptick that we saw here, where Big Bear skyrocketed all the way up, during this time, we also have had a lot of selling off from insiders. And so this is showing the insider trading in BigBearAI. And we could see that most recently, there was a ton of insider shares sold. And so we could see this company here, Pangium Holdings, had a bunch of shares. I mean, look at how much they traded. Sell, 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 sell. This is on the first page, and it goes all the way to the top of the second page. So there was a lot of sells in BigBear from the insiders. And if you're not sure who that company Pangium Holdings is, well, they are working with BigBearAI, a subsidiary company of BigBearAI. And so what is concerning about these recent insider sells is you have all this fear of dilution, and then again, their sloppy accounting error. And so what might have happened in BigBear is there was a little bit of a pump and dump. This was a good opportunity for investors to get some cash, especially when we look at BigBear off of the news and announcements that they had. It came at such a good time to have the big news of the new CEO and then also their big contract. So those two things sent this stock skyrocketing up. We saw the most volume that we have ever seen in BigBear. And so when we pull out the overall all-time chart for BigBear, we could see that this was the most volume they've ever had. And so it looks like the insiders knew that there was going to be some uncertainty sparked from the sloppy accounting errors, and then also with the convertible notes, that the sloppy accounting error could have a lot of those debt holders want to convert to shares and so sell out of the BigBear. So those insiders got there early. And now what also is concerning is we did see a lot of big institutional investors invest into BigBear at the tail end of the year. But now, and these numbers here don't get actually shown till the next report, but now we don't quite know how many of these institutional investors are holding BigBear. Again, there was a lot of companies bullish on this stock, but with the recent news, they might not be as bullish anymore. And so myself, I am still staying bullish on the BigBear. I am investing for the long term, but I did want to warn investors of the short-term volatility that we may see. There hasn't been any dilution yet, but there could always be dilution in the future, especially if with this accounting error, the numbers come back worse than expected. A lot of investors may move their capital out of BigBear at that spot. But we are also at an interesting spot. Again, when we look at the chart, we are looking a bit oversold. So there could be a bounce in the BigBear. We haven't seen any dilution since, but investors, please know that that dilution could still come. If you are investing into BigBear, I just encourage you to know how risky of a play this is. High risk, high reward potentially, but high risk could also mean no reward. So if you're investing into the BigBear, don't be naive to what market conditions could bring and set some stop losses along the way. But myself, I am staying very bullish on the BigBear. I still believe in all the contracts that they are getting. Their face scan technology is also at the airports, and we are just seeing this company grow altogether. Despite them having some pretty bad earnings reports, it is still a positive how much revenue they are making. So even though they are in some debt, we could see that they have revenues here as high as $40 million. So those are some pretty strong quarters from BigBear. If it wasn't for their debt, this company would be looking even better. So we want to continue to see BigBear do what they're doing, which is paying down debt, but we just hope that that debt isn't paid down by dilution. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else's thoughts on BigBear are. So please drop a comment in the section below with what you think. Please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'll see you guys in the next video.